So this is how you make a puzzle. First, you get some artwork, you flip the image to the other side, and you select print. Wait for it to print. We take the printout, we put it on the mat, take a blank puzzle, and place it on top, take the tape. We turn the puzzle over, place the mat down, and place it on. We'll go for 400. You remove it, we lift up the sheet, and here we go. So we'll lift it up, and we have a puzzle. And so this is how you make a puzzle. First, you get some artwork, you flip the image. Click play. Make it big. So we can click play. Make it big, small, big, small. And we can rotate it. Let's try that again. Rotation, 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 rotation. And there we go. So we went from having a drawing that we started off with, and now we have an interactive augmented reality animated cube just from a regular cube. transition. Maybe it is this. Okay. 1 second. I am having some technical difficulties apparently. Streaming art. Audio capture input. Boom, boom. And boom. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hear me? Yo, William, can you hear me? Oh dang, this whole time I wasn't even able to, people couldn't even hear me. I see how it is. Dang. Okay. I think we're good. I think we're good. Okay, so back to that. I got all of the other things going on. Yeah. Okay, so like I was saying, speak up louder. Okay, this is about as loud as I can get. Can you hear me? Got you. Okay, awesome. So you guys can hear me. He can hear me on the other stream. So what I was saying was that understanding software really is the key to it. And so what I can do is I'm able to actually, if you could see over on the right here, I'm able to add these into folders. And if I add the sketches into folders, I could drop the transparency down. Yeah. I could drop the transparency down. And if I do that, I'm able to see enough to trace over it, but it's not as bad as like I could see enough to trace over it, but it's not as bad. And so I will never like lose I'll never lose my train of thought with this with each one of these things. They would, like, all the lines won't get lost. And so what I'll do is actually go through. I will get a good brush. Once you figure out the right size, yeah, that'll work for me. And then I can go in, and one of the beauties of having a digital tablet is you could zoom in as much as you want, and being able to zoom in, it allows you to draw a lot, draw with a lot of detail. And so I can go through, draw in all these details of the cookie in the hand. Like that. And then I start adding some extra stuff. And so I have a texture brush, and I think this texture brush really gives me some extra character without having to like work too hard for it. Most of the time when you're working in this space, you try to see how much you can get away with without having to spend 20 hours doing something. And so if you want to have like a rough texture or grain texture on it, it's better to use a brush that has some texture opposed to using making it all out myself. And so a lot of the stuff that you're able to do with digital technology, a lot of that really comes from taking shortcuts or streamlining your process so that you're actually able to create more stuff over time. And so often the creative part comes in how you want to actually trace these lines. Because I created lines already, but they weren't finalized. These were just more ideas. And so you'll find yourself wanting to create like recreate. I wouldn't say recreating, but you find yourself wanting to reinterpret the lines more and more as you go over them. And so with this, you'll see how the blue lines look really nice, and they look a little more fleshed out than the green. But as I add the black lines in, then they become a little more expressive. And I often do at least like 2 to 3 passes. And so I'll do, and I do those in different colors. Yeah, I do those in different colors. And the reason I do those in different colors is because I want to be able to distinguish which draft I'm on. And so the green draft was the first one. Then I have the blue draft, and now typically I try to finish with the black draft. If these lines aren't cutting it, then I'll probably change the black lines to like probably red or something, and then I'll go over it with another pass. And it's always good to have like different textures and stuff in there. So he's eating cookies, and so I probably would want to have some crumbs around his face. And then when you get to sort of creating a composition or creating an effect, this is where it gets really interesting, because it doesn't have to necessarily be exactly how it is in real life. Often it's just sort of the idea and the concept of it. And a perfect example is when I'm crossing his legs, is that you'll notice how like his feet aren't there. And if somebody is crossing their legs, you'll be able to see their feet. With this, I don't feel like drawing the feet. And so for me, I think it becomes interesting. Art allows you to actually take the general idea of like feet being there as an assumption, and it does more of the work for you. And so what that looks like is when you're looking back, it looks like he's crossing his feet. But I didn't actually make the feet. And so it's because it's already assumed. It's one of those things that like I really don't have to do. It makes my job so much easier. And so then I could focus on making the hands. And I think a lot of the difficult things about drawing really comes from like, how do you make it believable? How do you make it look realistic enough? And often I really sort of play around with that in my head of, some of the stuff that I draw doesn't look like it would in real life. um, it doesn't look believable enough. It doesn't look realistic enough. And part of that's kind of just like imposter syndrome and all that. But I think it sort of highlights the reality that this is all made up stuff. Like, this is all stuff that people make up. It doesn't really exist, and because it's made up, you have a little bit of agency. Like, you have creative liberties that, you know maybe a photographer wouldn't have, or a videographer wouldn't have, or a journalist wouldn't have. Okay, so we got that. Yep. So now it looks like he's, crossing his feet and kind of going from there. I'll just sort of add to that. There we go. Because it's supposed to be a pile of cookies. I'm trying to figure out how to like create that pile of cookies. Yo, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. It's supposed to be a pile of cookies, but I didn't really give any details to it. And I feel like I don't need to give as many details, just because, yeah, I mean, like, you look at it, you could tell it's a pile of cookies. He's eating one. Some things just don't need to be as explained as much as you probably need to. It's like a path of least resistance is always my approach. And so then I just say these are chocolate chip cookies. And so what you do is you just sort of create just different. What I like to do is I just tend to create different lines and connect those lines. And voila, I have what looks like cookies now. And often what I would say is make sure that you save. If you do any digital stuff, make sure that you save it, because that's the beauty of doing digital stuff. And so one of the things that I often do is I work in a lot of layers. So this layer right here is my, like, just my character layer. So I can remove this, and this is what we have. I think it looks pretty good. And so if I have this layer here, what I'll tend to do is I will do, let's see. I'll use the magic of Photoshop. And so I'll just grab my magic wand tool, and I will just select outside of it here. And then I'll right click. I will select inverse, or I take that back. So I'll right click, then I'll go to select modify. I think it's modify. Yeah. And then I'll actually expand this. And so I expand this by like 2 or whatever. That way it goes inside of this. It goes inside the lines. And after I do that, then I'm going to right click and select inverse. And so now I could create a new layer. I'll put that new layer under the line layer, and I'll just go ahead and pick a color that that might be useful. And so I think something like, typically something I wouldn't use, and so I think like a pink would be good. And then I'll just do that. And so now I sort of masked out the background. And so now what I could do is I could go through, I could say blending options, let's see here, and I can have a stroke, and not like a health, a health related stroke, but a stroke, which is sort of like an outline. And I'll make this, we'll just say, we'll make it red for now. And then we're going to put it on the outside. And you'll notice that as I increase it, it makes it more, actually, let's see if I do the center. What will happen? Nah, I don't like the center. I don't want inside too. Yeah, so when I add an outline, it creates an outline around it. So instead of having to sort of have that outline here, instead of having an outline here, I could just create the outline in Photoshop as a layer. So again, I'll just save it. And so I'll actually remove that. And the next thing I'll do is I'll just add another layer. Turn this into a clipping mask. And all the clipping mask does is whenever I pretty much treat the pink as sort of the boundaries of what I'm working on. And then I could choose a color, create another layer and make that a clipping mask, and then I'll choose a color. And I'll say, I want the skin tone to be brown, right? And so I'll just make a larger piece. And so if I ever go outside the lines, nothing will show up. And so that's, it's like one of the, God's gift to artists, essentially. That's kind of how I look at it. It's like God's gift to artists. If you have a clipping mask, you don't have to worry about coloring outside the lines, because all of everything is confined within this bounding box of the pink. And so then I essentially treat this layer as sort of my base color layer. And so the base color layer, it allows me to essentially just color indiscriminately. I don't have to worry about coloring the lines, anything like that. Just the regular color. And so I tend to bounce around from different sizes. And I'll just start adding color to the areas that are needed. Some people essentially use a new color per layer, but that's just way too much for me. I don't have the patience for it. And so we have pretty much the skin tones right now. So that was pretty easy. And then, oops, I need to have my white. and then he tends to have a shirt, like a white shirt on, and so I will add that. Like a lot of my characters have like very simple simple designs, and that's just because it allows me to focus on what really matters to me, and that's really the story. And so if I could have simple characters, it allows me to have a very fun a fun story. I could have a more impactful story that people could buy into. Yep. Thanks Jessica. Thanks Red Action. I appreciate it. One of the big things is I always, because I'm working on one layer for coloring, I'll always like go past the lines and stuff. And I think that's just because I try to work a lot faster to get more stuff done. But I also found myself having to like go over some of the mistakes that I made. So what I'll do is I'll actually start coloring this cookie with just like a tan or a very, very light brown. Think about like Chips Ahoy cookies. Get these chocolate chips. And so you'll notice the reason I use pink is because you'll be able to see the pink if you miss it. So if you zoom in on something, you'll be able to see pink. And the goal is essentially to try to make sure that at the end of this, you don't have any pink showing. And the best part about this is that if I mess up, so like I accidentally colored all of this when I wanted to only color these two, you just click undo and then it just undoes that. And so you can't really do that in a traditional workflow. That's how it is. And so with it, we have the skin tones, we have the the eyes, the shirt, got the cookies, and now it's just a matter of fleshing out and adding the rest of the color to it. I don't think we'll get to the background. Yeah, I definitely don't think we'll get to the background. Um, oh yeah, like I'm a big Oreos fan. So Oreos and milk are those man. I I will go broke just buying Oreos and eating those. I think yesterday I think I had something. I had like one snack. I do like a really bad job of like making sure I eat consistently. I had like one snack and then I had like a whole bag of Oreos. It was amazing. It was amazing. Just so amazing. So amazing. Okay, so I am going to zoom in, and again, the goal is just to get rid of all this pink. And so by coloring all the stuff in, get rid of all these pink, and then I'm able to uh, add some shading and stuff to it. And it's like the power of the pink as well is, again, you can see I have some like some like peak spots popping up, and it's just a matter of just like getting rid of these things. And so if I want to cover a larger area, I could do that. I tend to just like cover, like go around the areas that are supposed to be protected with another color. And then after that, I'll increase the brush and I'll just spend a fraction of the time just coloring the rest of it. Because like the faster the brush, the easier it is, or the larger the brush, the easier it is. But yeah, got my I got my I got my stuff down. Like this is going pretty good. So I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give the I'm going to give the towel that's on it. I'm gonna give that just like a light blue color. And I think the light blue color really, because I don't want to do white, because I already have a white shirt, and so I think having a light blue color would sort of balance things a little bit more. And again, the goal is really just to try to have get all the pink away. That's really it. You could choose whatever colors you want. I mean, because you could always change them. For me, I have like a specific color palette that I use, but you could change it. And there we go. This is so this is the actual colored one. So this is the base coat. So at first it started off as, well, yeah, we could go through the whole shebang right now. So first started off as this. Then we added the green. We added some more green to sort of give it a little bit of texture and environment. Then we added the blue. Then we added the lines. Then we added the pink. Then we added that. And so what I'll do now is I'll actually go to an adjustment layer, which is what we have right here. So adjustment layers, I'll go to exposure, and all exposure does is just change like the light on it. And so I try to make an exposure that's dark, and I'll use the darks for the actual shadows of him. And then I'll create another exposure, and that exposure will be for the lights. So any sort of highlights that he has, I'll actually increase this up so that he has more highlights. And then I'll turn these into clipping masks. And when I do that, it will say clipping mask for this one, boom. And then clipping mask for this one, boom, just like that. And so if I turn off the clipping mask, I'll go release, and it turns it darker. But with the clipping mask, it still confines it to this. So now, with the clipping mask, you'll see it says all white. I'll actually change it to all black, and then I'll just do a paint bucket. It changes it here, so anything that's white will show up. And I'll do the same thing for this too. Boom. There you go. So this is the original one that we have. Yeah, do that. And so now, looks like I missed. Of course I would. Of course. So it looks like, thanks to the lovely pink, it's reminding me that I missed some spots. So let me just color these in real quick. There you go. There you go. There you go. And for the most part, like the spots people probably are not going to see. Oh yeah, for sure. I'm always I'm always excited to see artists sort of explain their process during streams, and so I'm glad that you're excited too. Yeah, so so most of the time, like a lot of the details that that happen in this, most people are not going to see it. Like they're not going to sit there and see like, oh, there's a pink spot, but it does, you know, as an artist you have a level of pride knowing that you added these details in and you're able to do a lot of different things with it. And so so with it, I will sort of I will change this to white, and I will do a few passes on this. So I'll drop the opacity down. I'll have that on. We'll do a little smoothing at like 50%. We'll do a flow at 50%. You can see I still forgot some more spots, but well, no, I don't want that to be at 9. Yeah, there we go. So now this is where it gets sort of where I can sort of paint it. And so this is my favorite part, because I want to be you know, with the shadows, I want to be able to create these crazy effects. And so I'll do that by just sort of having these various strokes. I'll increase this a little bit so that it gives me and so I'll sort of just like follow where the overlaps are. And so I see that like there's some overlap here. Some overlap there. Maybe some overlap here. I don't know if I like the smoothing, but I'll keep the flow up. There you go. It sort of moves a lot faster now. So I know that like it'll get really dark in here. Kind of dark in these areas. Definitely darker right here. This will probably be the darkest. Yeah. Oh yeah. So hardware. So for me, I use a Wacom Cintiq. A Wacom Cintiq is like amazing. Oh, it looks like I only have 20 seconds left. But yeah, so like Wacom Cintiq is really amazing. If you have the opportunity to get one of the HP, no, the Surface tablets, I would do that. Get a Surface tablet, get Photoshop, get a Cintiq, and I think this is it. You know, so and that concludes the stream. That concludes the stream. Oh yeah. Enjoy. Adios. Thanks for joining me. And I will call it a day. See you.